All right, everybody, welcome to episode 4 of Ryan and Nick's Two Bros, One Flick. I am Ryan.
I'm your best bud, Nick.
Your best bud, your sleep time watcher, all those sort of things. All right, this week we talked about the movie Okja, or we watched the movie Okja. We're about to talk about it. I guess that's the order in which it goes in. So,
I
friend.
talked about it like after and like before.
Oh, you talked
Like
about
with
it before and after?
other people and like by
Is that a
myself.
good sign?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good movie. Honestly, I was kind of surprised by it. I had no clue what it was even about going into it. Like I didn't look at any trailers. All I knew was the like image of the giant pig. I was like, this is gonna be weird. I don't know why Ryan's picking this, but here we go.
I think the part where I just the crazy factor just like jumped by 10 because it starts pretty crazy, but when the Animal Liberation Front guys show up, like they're just ridiculous. Like they just make me smile because they're so absurd. Just
It's
everything.
hard. It's hard to tell which part of them was a joke and which part was like serious. You know, like because it all kind of felt like a joke, but at the same time, it was so subtle. It was like throws you off. Yeah,
The
I
one
enjoyed
guy
them.
that won't eat a tomato, he's like, dude, you gotta eat something. So
He's so committed. I don't know if you know this, but tomatoes are unorganically grown with nitrates that are polluting the environment.
All right, so uh, as we get into this, I had trouble typifying this movie. What would you call it? Like for genre wise?
It's definitely like sci-fi. I mean, it's got some elements of that to it. I'd probably call it an adventure
Okay.
type of movie. You know, like you're really just following like a journey.
Yeah.
I enjoyed. Yeah, I'd say sci-fi, maybe dystopian future a little bit. You
Okay.
know, it's kind of in a world where we don't exist in now. You know, so you kind of
Yeah.
have to go off into a place where things like super pigs can happen.
Well, I think it's technically supposed to be like, didn't the first timestamp was 2006, and then it was 10 years after that. So 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just more like it was so the company and everything was so magically crazy that it seemed like surreal. Like they were surreal. I put Save Your Pet, like Free Willy style movie, because I feel like there's a lot of those out there. You know what I mean? Like legitimately, I almost feel like we need a subgenre. Like Michael Jackson needs to be writing a soundtrack, and then this kid needs to be standing there and a giant pig jumps over his head or something. I don't know.
Doing a moonwalk.
Yeah. But, you know, like, I mean, that's kind of what I felt like. Like, there was a lot of things going on, but the little kid was on an adventure to save their pet. Isn't there like a Thai fighting movie where the guy's like saving his elephant or something? Like, he's like, "Where's my elephant?"
That sounds awesome.
I'm going to look this up, and we'll get into that later because I guarantee you that exists. So maybe it's a remake of that. I don't know.
You know, if that movie does exist, you've seen it. Like I would put money on the fact that you've seen it.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Say, I thought that the beginning of the movie, where you're like following the corporation and like everything that they're doing,
yeah,
is really off-putting. In the next scene, when you start to follow the girl in like her environment, because they really did a good job of like separating like the corporation from the people that you're following and making you feel disconnected between the two, which I thought was really interesting.
Everything about it was very deliberate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think this is, I'm going to just go ahead and say this. I feel like out of the 4 movies we've watched, I feel like this director showed his control over what we were experiencing expertly. You know, I feel like everything that you experienced, everything you saw was very intentional. Okay, this movie, the elephant movie, it's called The Protector. just for all you people who needed a spot in your life about a guy fighting his way through hordes of enemies to get an elephant back, go watch The Protector. You won't be disappointed.
There's like a bunch of elephant pet owners out there that loved that movie. They were like, finally, a movie for us.
I think if there's a bunch of elephant pet owners, we need to be talking to like the World Wildlife Organization. Like, how do they get all these elephants? I thought they were endangered.
It's Texas, man, right? Like Tiger King. They probably have Elephant King. Next thing you know,
King. Well, what that
Python King.
Doc Antle or whatever? Didn't he ride out on an elephant? But he wasn't.
Yeah. No, he was in like Miami or something like that.
I thought he was in the Carolinas. Is he in Miami? I know
he's in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember the scene where he's like bathing in a lake with his elephant. Which is like, all right.
Yep, here we go. All right, cool. So why don't you give us a little rundown of what the movie was about? A little brief synopsis, if you will.
Yeah, sure. So you start by being introduced to this like CEO, I guess, introducing herself to her company.
Okay.
And she's describing how they're going to revolutionize, I guess, the pork industry, I'd say. I don't think you're necessarily told exactly what's going on, other than the fact that they're like a chemicals company and that they're starting to create like genetically modified animals.
Sure.
But
and that they have a previously very bad public image.
Right. Yeah. So before this, they were a hated company, and they're trying to change their image. And I guess the kind of crux of it is they're framing it as though they're taking these genetically modified animals and putting them into farms, like cute local farms with really down to earth local farmers, and making you think that this meat production that they're going to have is going to be local and non-GMO and, all the good buzzwords we all love.
Yeah.
And then the story shifts to following Mija.
Sure.
Does that sound like her name?
Mija, however that's pronounced from Korean. I don't know.
Who's a young girl in Korea who lives in like the foothills of Korea. I don't know. Like,
I was impressed. I felt watching that. I was like, I want to go to Korea. Like, I feel like it's beautiful. This is awesome. No.
But they live in a house on a mountain with no electricity or very limited electricity.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you start following her and her pet super pig, who is one of the super pigs that the corporation delivered to these local farmers.
Yeah.
So they're the local farmers, and they've been raising this pig, and it's massive. It's enormous. But very early on in the movie, they give you a deliberate scene that shows you how...
Wait. This is still our spoiler free. So just keep it brief.
Okay.
Got it. Go ahead. I just didn't want you to, yeah.
Then basically the journey of the movie begins when the company comes to collect Okja, their super pet. And you follow Mija's journey to try and regain her pet and best friend.
Yeah. So like I said, it was a Free Willy, Save Your Pet, The Protector, elephant fighting movie.
If you think about it in the context of Free Willy, there's no way you could have a pet whale. A pet pig, sure. A pet whale, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, basically, like, you have the immediate juxtaposition of industry versus like, I mean, I hate to use the word humanity, but this idea of nature being taken advantage of, the relationship of a kid, what makes something intelligent, too intelligent to eat, stuff like that.
Well, and from what we know, if you've seen his movies, the director, Snowpiercer's tackling global warming and kind of class warfare, I guess. And it's the same thing with Parasite, which he won all the Oscars for. It's like there, it seems like to me all of his movies are tackling some big topic that is taking place in our lives right now.
Yeah.
Like there's some element to it that is relatable to everything that's going on in the world right now, which just makes it interesting. It gives it like depth.
Yeah. Well, and I haven't seen Snowpiercer or Parasite, but the host starts with the monster is basically created because they're dumping a bunch of chemicals into the water. So it's the same
Sure.
sort of thing, like,
Yeah.
like pollution and, that sort of stuff. So yeah, he was absolutely, and it kind of rings true, like I think it hits something in us because we're like, oh, now we're consciously aware of something, it seems relevant.
Well, and what I was
Makes me
going to
wonder
say,
how we'll see it in like 20 years from now, like how it will hold up. But right
sure.
now it feels relevant anyway.
And well, what I was going to say, I don't really think it gives anything away. But what I was going to say is initially, in one of the first scenes in the movie, they give you like a really powerful moment to tell you how intelligent the creature is.
Yeah.
Right? Like they give you this moment that makes you go, oh, that's not just a pig. That's something that is thinking and has a developed brain. So
Yeah.
you're already more connected to it than you would be like any just regular animal.
Sure. Now I will say I'm going to make myself sound awful. I did let my 11-year-old and my 13-year-old watch it with me. However, there's a bit disclaimer. I had seen it before. I did kick him out for the lab scene because there's just, there was not anything I wanted to explain. But that was one of the things that we talked about after the movie, like my 13-year-old was like, what point are they too smart to eat? She's like, I feel like that's really the thing. You see chickens, and chickens are relatively stupid animals. You know what I mean? Like they're fairly helpless. They reproduce quickly. We talked about, my younger daughter was more concerned with things like hunting. Like afterwards, she was asking me about deer. How can people kill deer? Because they're beautiful. And I'm like, well, we have to kill deer because we've killed all the predators. So if we don't kill deer, they start to overpopulate, and then they start to starve out, and they start to cause traffic problems. Like we kind of upset the natural order of things, and the only correction now is for us to kill them. That just so. So I feel like, yeah, we pulled a whole lot of conversations out of that over what it meant. What does food production mean? What does it mean for something to be intelligent and to be part of a family? I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like an interesting topic, and I think they do a good job of at least making you think about it. Like regardless of if you're, I don't care, they're all dumb animals, or if you think like the opposite, all animals are sacred and you shouldn't eat any of them,
Yeah.
then it definitely just gives you time to think about the topic. I would say it at least made me ponder it for a little while.
Yeah. The other thing I'm going to mention about this, and this more relates to last week's movie with tonal issues. I've only seen 2 of this guy's 4 big movies, but he seems to be able to shift tone and it not feel unnatural. Like there were
Yeah.
definitely times that were like, I felt like the people were being bizarre, and they were purposely being bizarre. I felt like there were times that were legitimately funny. There were definitely times that were super sad or horrifying. There were times where you felt like you wanted whatever character to kick somebody's butt. You know what I mean? Like there was rising action, and so I feel like that goes more to what I said about this director having a master of his craft. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I
I
don't feel
definitely
like
agree.
that was accidental, but it is unique to him. Not to say that there's not movies that I don't feel a range of emotions in, but his movies they both feel grounded and almost feel like a fairy tale. Like there's this weird elements in them. Maybe.
I don't know that, like you said, it's hard to kind of typecast this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I can honestly say I don't think I've ever seen a movie like it.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't.
Aside from
I
Free
would
Willy.
I would say Free Willy is a distant cousin. Like Twice
Yeah.
Removed, makes not really that related, you know? Like
What was
I'm
related was a child and an animal. That's really the relationship between
I
the
swear to God, if Netflix suggests Free Willy after this.
two.
But no, yeah, I would say like as far as the storytelling and the message behind the movie, and all those components added together, I don't think I've ever seen a movie exactly like this. Like it's very unique, and I think it's done very well. I would agree that it's probably has the least problems with it out of all the
Yeah,
movies we've seen. Like I
absolutely.
was never at a point in this movie, even though we're following around a super pig that can talk to its owner or whatever. It's like there was never a point in this movie where I was like, oh, that part sucked. Why did that happen?
Yeah.
Which that's a sign of a good movie.
Yeah. Well, and even the stuff that like could have been like left alone. It was mentioned. They could have moved on and never. It was brought up again, and it had consequences. Actions had consequences, and I thought
Right.
that was really well done. Um, let's talk about the Super Pig. What did you
Wait,
think? How do you think they
what
did?
what what's your rating?
Oh, what's my
What you got an
rating?
S? Yeah.
Man, this is where I've been struggling because I'm not a big drama guy, and I did feel like this movie had a lot of heart. It's not a movie I can watch every day, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so I would say like I still thought it was better than last week's as far as a mastery of craft, but it's not in my favorite movie zone. I'm going to give it an 8 too.
An 8.2.
Yeah, well I gave the
Wow.
last movie an 8, so this one has to be a
That's
little
true. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I agree. It was really good. I couldn't watch it over and over again, but I don't think that devalues it.
No,
I think
yeah,
the one experience you have watching this movie you'll enjoy. So I think I'm leaning towards like a 7.6.
okay.
Like it's a really good movie. I'd suggest it to people, but I probably wouldn't like tell them to get out of their seat now and go watch it.
Now, is that the same rating you gave In the Shadow of the Moon?
I don't remember what I gave in the Shadow of the Moon. I think it's higher. I'm pretty sure I gave
Okay.
In the Shadow of the Moon a 7.2.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But we,
Fair
we
enough.
can roll back the tape.
Yeah. Man, it's getting crazy now. I'm gonna have to keep track of this stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make like a dashboard that just pops up like on the sides.
Yeah.
It's like Nick's movies, Ryan's
Ryan's
movies.
movies. Mine are gonna have to start breaking the 10 mark and just going up. Like
Yeah.
keep rating them higher. Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, you gave him a 36.
It'll
And
show like the top 10, and then it'll say whatever number this movie is, like 102.
All right. Okay. So let's jump into the technical aspects. How do you think they did on the Super Pig?
Dude, I was never at a moment where I was like, this thing looks awful.
Yeah.
Like it's not the best in every scene,
Yeah.
but as far as what they did with it, it's not bad.
No.
Like it's believable in the context of the movie. They don't put it into crazy scenarios where it has to do like something that will make it look less realistic. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like if they had thrown it off of a some scene where they had to CG the whole scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they put it into real scenarios in every scene, which helps you just like stay involved in the movie and never
Yeah.
be like, oh crap. Like they just CG'd an entire city and now I hate this movie.
I will say there is and I don't think this spoils anything, but there is a scene that's just establishing Mija,
Mija.
her relationship with
Get it right.
Sorry. Miho's, I don't know.
Miho.
Mija's relationship.
Miso soups.
No. I'm not blanketing a culture. Just their menu items. Oh.
General
Her
So was
grandpa
really
wonton.
interesting.
Yeah, no. It's terrible. No, there's a scene where Mija and Okja are napping in the afternoon, and she is napping on top of Okja, And in Okja's sleep, Okja does a complete roll, and she is sleep rolling with him. And
Yeah.
I mean, like it was the entire idea, the premise, even just saying it out loud sounds awkward, and it worked. You know what I mean? Like I thought, to me, I was like, oh, they did something. Okay, and granted, this is removed by like 15 years, but the Star Wars sequels where they had Anakin jump on the back of one of those things and write it down, and he was a jelly monster. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the CG, they really did do it well, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
I do agree that there were. I think what threw me off sometimes were the eyes, because animal eyes don't look like people eyes, but he had people eyes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree, but I think that was deliberate.
No, absolutely it was deliberate.
Right.
But that's what separated him from being a straight animal. And that's what seeing a giant animal shape and then seeing those eyes um, triggered me to be aware of them always. Which again, like you said, probably very deliberate for what they were trying to get across. But so yeah, so I think
Yeah.
at least in this instance, they can pull off good graphics. So we'll know that for the future. And
Can we
granted,
talk
like you
about
said,
how
there's no CG city. There was no giant fight scene with flying, super cows. Although, oh, Jet 2, man, we could pitch it. We can make it happen.
fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Can we talk about how out of this is the second movie you picked?
Yeah.
Both have had very vibrant pooping scenes.
Oh my god! I forgot about the pooping scenes. There were multiple in this one. Oh my
And
goodness!
I mean, the first time it's like active.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like a cutaway to some stuff dropping on the ground. It is the whole picture. You see everything. You see muscles twitching. You see I mean, it's like you were watching a cow shit. Like it's just
Well, have you ever seen a hippo poop?
No, I
This
have
is
not.
this is an assignment for anyone listening. Go to YouTube and Google hippo pooping. So
Right. This is where you cut to just a video.
it's a video of it.
Don't give people instructions. Just throw it in there.
So the first time I experienced this, it was shortly after Disney's Animal Kingdom opened up in Orlando.
Yeah.
And the first time we went and we were going around, you're trying to see the animals. Because essentially it's a zoo with a theme park rides placed throughout it. And we saw all these people crowded around this enclosure. And so we're obviously trying to get there because that means the animal's out. But I mean, people are deep. I mean, by the time I can read the sign of what animal is inside the enclosure, people are already pushed back to me. So I would say there were 6 rows of people between me and the glass. And then those people were spread out filling the entire thing. So, I would say probably 50 people crammed in this little area. And they're all, oh, and everybody's got their camera and they're holding their kids up and stuff. And all of a sudden you start hearing screaming. Because I'm not sure if you know this, hippos poop in a very particular way. They go into the water, they stick their butt out of the water, and their tail starts spinning. Like, I didn't realize their tail had this motion. Their tail spins like a helicopter. And then they start pooping and it starts flying everywhere. And then people are screaming and his poop is flying towards the glass. And they've got their kids on their shoulders like, oh, man, it was one of my favorite memories ever.
I'm glad Okja could bring you back to that happy place.
Totally.
Yeah, it was magical. It wasn't quite as good as the platform. That pooping scene, grade A, 10 out of 10 on the poop grading scale. But this is a solid 8.5. Like, get out, go see that poop scene.
In fairness, with the second poop scene in this one, well, for one, there was multiple poop scenes, and the second one, the guy.
Sorry, I didn't give you enough credit. I'm sorry. There's multiple poop scenes.
The guy is talking to his wife about the poop, so they at least address it.
Yeah. It's
Oh.
brought up.
All right. So I do think there were some surreal elements to this movie. Do you feel like the characters were believable? I mean, like, I feel like I enjoyed the characters in the situations they were in. I don't know if I believe they were 100% real people. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the corporation, the CEO
Yeah.
doesn't really seem like a real person.
No.
Jake Gyllenhaal's character is great.
Oh my goodness.
He's fantastic, but he's not a believable character. Like in no way.
And I would
But
even
yeah,
say, to an extent, some of the guys from the Animal Liberation Front are the same way, where they're like
sure.
they're there and we're laughing at them and they're delivering their lines, but they like, I don't think I'm going to run into that person at the mall. Yeah,
No, they're
but I don't
not.
think
They're
that.
not PETA. You know,
No.
like
I like that their initials were Alf. It just made me think of Alf,
yeah.
which was totally unrelated the whole
That's
time.
well. The first time that they're brought up is after they spray paint that truck. It just says Alf, and that's the first thing I thought of. Like alien life form. Like
He's gonna eat some cats. Wonderful. All right, so cover the characters. Entertainment factor. I mean, like I said, it's not a movie I could watch over and over and over again, but I was captivated while it was on. And I think it was actually the nature of the movie that is why it's not something I'd want to watch over and over and over and over again. But I would still say it was a good movie.
yeah, I think we were talking about this maybe off the recording last week, but you know that Dave Chappelle theory of like you don't have to be making people laugh 100% of the time as long as what you're saying is interesting.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of like a good way of describing this movie. It's like not everything was entertaining 100% of the time, but you're so interested and involved in the characters that the light moments of comedy are really well placed and put together, and they bring a lot more entertainment value to the movie, whereas it would have been just really sad, you know. Like
But absolutely. I mean, I could have been super depressed watching this movie had they played it just a little differently.
yeah, it's just a really well done movie.
Yeah. Don't tear up on me. All right,
I'm sorry,
cool.
man.
So
I had Leroy in here, you know. I'm like,
oh no,
you're my Okja. You're just dumber.
All right. I think we already covered this. I'm just going down my list because I'm going to be honest. You're getting my hot takes this week. I didn't do my homework. I watched it, but I go back and I fill out my questionnaire just so I have those thoughts right in my head. Now you're just getting whatever flies out.
It'll be a spicy one.
And I feel like we are. Yeah, exactly. I feel like we already flew through this, but did it remind you of any other movies? I mean, other than Dave Chappelle.
It was like a shot for shot.
Shot for shot. That last thing that's special.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think I've ever seen a movie quite like it. Like I think it's pretty unique.
Okay,
and
right.
I appreciate that. Like I really like that. I really so you know, to call back to last week, my spoiler to myself that I thought was going to be true, was that the CEO, I don't remember their names. One was Nancy. I don't remember the other one's name, but I thought they were
hold on.
twins.
We'll give our spoiler alert. All right, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, the CEO people. I thought they were going to be the same person. Like I thought it was going to come out that it
personality, like
it was like different personalities or something.
Yeah. I mean,
that was
actress.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought that was going to be like the interesting twist.
Yeah.
It was like it was really just the same person the whole time, and she like changes into a more dark person versus a happy like crazy person.
Yeah, and with how surreal she was, that would have been totally believable.
Yeah,
I think you really could have like capitalized on is having a portrait of the father and it just being her with like facial hair, so that everyone in her family is just played by Tilda Swinton.
She's like the Eddie Murphy of this movie. Her aunt comes out. It's just her. Like
I love it. I love it. Okja too, man. Taking
Okja 2 killer pig fights
yeah.
with
Well,
the
here,
whole family of Tilda Swinton.
all right. So I have hopped these so far, but we're going to go into that big spoiler zone. Why don't you give us like that detailed rundown of the plot, which you're already kind of starting to walk on, and I'll provide the color commentary.
Okay. So we're following Mija into New York, which is where Okja's being taken because he's part of their, best super pig program. So he has won. He's the best. He's the biggest. He's grown the best. He's the smartest, or whatever. They're collecting data on all these pigs that they've sent out to all these farmers. It's a marketing scheme. It's these farmers are just there to put a good face on for the company. So they're going to put on a big show with Okja. And you're following Mija, and while she's going to Seoul to try and stop them and get Okja back, she ends up chasing the company's like semi truck that he's been put into, or she, I guess Okja's a she, that Okja's been put into, and she's following them, and she's like doing all these sick parkour moves and jumping over buildings and stuff, and she jumps onto the semi truck and she's hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, Spider-Man style. Like she ducks out of some things like the overpass and stuff. Yeah.
When they got to the scene where the truck goes like down a hill and she's on an upper level, I was like, they're not gonna make like a 13-year-old girl jump off
totally.
onto a semi, right? And they're like, yep, we are. So yeah, that was fun. And then she's hanging on for a long time, it seems.
Yeah.
It feels like she's hanging on for a good part of the movie.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, this other semi is like trying to get the attention of the semi we're following. And they turn out to be like these American speakers that are they're telling them basically that they're going to board their semi and like attack them. And they're not following because they don't understand what they're saying. So everyone on our company's minivan or semi truck has no idea what's going on. They're like, these guys, they're talking to us. What?
Yeah.
And then they eventually get stopped. They like ram them into a wall. They pull Okja out and the little girl, and they basically all get away together. I think that's kind of how it happens.
Yeah. I mean, eventually. That's yeah.
And we find out that...
Can we just mention, just honorable mention, the company's semi-truck driver was a like 20-something kid. And, clearly he does this every day. And the other guy's like, is this car going to fit under these overpasses? And he's just looking at him, driving the overpasses, like barely scraping the top. Like he's
like speeding up.
Yeah, I love it. Like I loved him. And as soon as like they get rammed by the animal rights activists and pushed into the wall, he's like, we got to chase him. He's like, man, this job doesn't give me workment comp, so I think you're on your own. Look, I love that. Like,
this is the company's truck. It's not my truck. I don't care. Like, whatever, man. And then the later scene where he's being interviewed by the
news. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, man, my company effed up. They're screwed. Like, it's over. And the lady's like, you mean the company whose uniform you're wearing? Like, yeah, they suck. Like,
yeah, he was a bright spot for me. I loved it. And it's funny too because like just him being that character kind of flips, like when you're watching action movies and somebody tries to steal something from an organization, regardless of what those employees are paid, they chase after it and get, you know what I mean? So like he was just a real dude. He was like, nah, it's not happening.
I'm done, bro. I'm done.
Wonderful. Anyway, so they get away in the
after
getting Okja off the truck.
They get Okja off the truck and there's a chase scene, and they eventually get away onto the other semi who stopped our company's semi. And we find out that those people are part of an animal rights activist group. And their plan is to steal Okja and to replace the data collection device on him with something that will let them see and hear everything that's going on around him, essentially. And then once they've done that, they're going to give him back to the company that took him, so that when he gets taken to the U.S., they will get insider information on what they're doing to these animals. Like they know that they're gonna take him to their research facility, and they'll be able to record all the bad stuff that they're doing, and then they'll be able to release that to the world and show them how bad of a animal rights group, or how bad they are for animal rights.
Yes.
So that's essentially their plan.
I think it's interesting because their plan did not include a little girl.
Right.
You know what I mean? So she is kind of this X factor that has entered into it, because I think they had all kind of made peace with, we're going to put this animal in danger for the greater good.
Yeah.
You know, like they think the danger is going to be minimal, obviously, because the creature needs to show up later at the festival because it is the biggest one. But they know that there is a risk factor, and then they all of a sudden they have to face that.
And that when you're first introduced to them, there are some real great like comedic moments.
Oh,
like
man.
like when the main guy, who's English, is trying to get his Korean like buddy to explain everything to the little girl who only speaks Korean. he's like, we have been here for 40 years treating animals the best way possible, and that is our mission. And the guy's just like, what up?
He's
wait,
like one syllable.
Did you say everything? Like, was that it? He's like, yep, I got it. He's like, it's really important that you tell her everything I'm saying. And this is actually a crux in the movie too. It comes up again where they essentially, the leader of this group tells Mija that if she doesn't agree to their plan, then they won't do it. Like, they'll just send her back. And everyone else in the group is kind of like, wait, we came to Korea to do this. Like,
yeah,
we're just going to send her and Okja back? We need them. Like, this is our whole mission. And so they ask the girl, and the guy translates it, and immediately she just goes, I want to go back to the mountains with Okja. And the guy's like, she agreed. Like, oh, wow, thanks, Mija.
So I think what was cool about that scene to me was that it was so intimate and quiet. Like, they've gone through this chase scene, they get away in this thing, and you're like, okay, they're going to go to a staging area and make all this stuff happen. But then immediately after they get the word from her, they open the door, and you realize all of Korea's police force, or excuse me, all of Seoul's police force is chasing them. Like, they're doing an OJ chase down the interstate. The whole time they're having this conversation, and the dudes just start jumping over the railing into the water. And I thought that was beautiful. Like,
they're on like an overpass, and they all just like, all right, see ya. Yeah, that was really fun. I really liked that scene. I liked how it came together. The timing of it was really fun. And then basically you're following, you go back to the company that we're following, and the CEO realizes how bad of the press backlash is going to be from this event. Okja got loose in Seoul, so there's one of their super pigs just like going crazy. And there's this whole scene where in the news they're showing Mija getting carried away by all of their workers, all their security guys. So she realizes, like, oh crap, we're going to be looked at so poorly from this. We need to have a spin on it. We need to do some sort of marketing to get out of this bad press. And so her idea is she's going to invite Mija to New York, and in their big super big presentation, they're going to reunite the two of them, and that's going to be their saving grace. It's going to bring back all the goodwill towards their company. And
I think in that scene too, you get a little bit of like a picture into how bad the company was, and that she was kind of the throwaway kid, the one everyone thought was a screw up, that spent her entire time going to like leadership conferences and learning about public image and how to control public image. So this really is her baby, her baby 10 years in the making. But not only her baby, but her chance to prove her family wrong,
Right.
So the stakes kind of get raised for her, in my opinion, anyway. And you start to, you start to sympathize with her a little bit. She's still outlandishly crazy.
Right.
But you start seeing her as a person.
Yeah, it shows you a different side of her because the only thing you've seen so far is like her kind of just talking to a crowd,
Yeah.
like putting on a show kind of. So you actually are seeing like the human side of her. So it is interesting. And you're also told that her sister is still involved somehow.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that we know is that her sister was CEO before her, and they're painting her as like this evil person, and she's gone.
Yeah.
Now it's her other twin sister who's the opposite of that. And so we know that at least someone in the company is keeping her involved in everything after that scene, which was interesting to me. And then from there, we follow Mija coming back to New York and kind of getting prepared for her role. And we're introduced back with the animal relief people. They show up in Mija's hotel room and like, don't worry, we're going to help you. Everything's going to go great, like,
Yeah.
And I think meanwhile, we start to see the footage that Okja is picking up from the lab that the company has where they're testing Okja.
Yes.
Which don't they just have like a mating scene, like where they bring in another
Yes.
super pig and they mate the two of them?
Yeah. Like animal husbandry.
Yeah, essentially. And then they also use some sort of device to take a sample of meat from Okja.
Yes.
So
Well, I will say that was a little bit. I mean, I feel like you're watching Jake Gyllenhaal's character. I can't even remember Dr. Johnny or something, or
yeah,
but you're watching him realizing that he's been replaced by this little girl. He's been the face of this thing. He's kind of a has-been kids entertainer, like maybe a super flamboyant Steve Irwin that has fallen out of favor kind of with kids over the past 10 years. And he's been the face of their company. Well, with this new opportunity, he is on the outs. So you kind of watch him hit rock bottom. And he drinks the whole time knowing this crazy stuff he's going to put the pig through, and then kind of making a dance out of taking the meat samples out of her, which was pretty crazy.
What I kind of thought about that movie, that part of the movie was, I thought it was kind of more of like him, because when you first are introduced to Dr. Johnny, all you're told is that he's the new face of the company.
Yeah.
Right. So I think he's like, at the beginning of the movie, he's being introduced as part of the company. So he went.
Well, but you see, like behind him, there's his logo and like his whole, like they established that he's a celebrity.
Right.
Yeah.
So like before he was involved in the company,
give credibility to what they're trying to do.
Exactly. Yeah. But my point is that I think before he was involved in the company, he was just kind of like a Steve Irwin-esque character, someone who loved animals. And I think this scene is where he starts to realize that he kind of sold out. Like he went from being like someone who just loves animals, talks about them and shows them with kids, maybe something like that. And now he's just taken the money from a giant corporation to put a good face as if they love animals too. But he's literally doing the dirty work, like he knows exactly what's happening to those animals. So I think his character is starting to devolve and just like start to realize, oh, I've made some terrible decisions, like like I don't know how I got here, kind of a thing. And I think them talking about Mija as maybe the new face of the company is where that starts. Like he's starting to get replaced, and he's like, oh crap, like I've sold out my whole morals for this, and now I'm not even this anymore. Like which that was a really dark part of the movie too. Like
well, I think in some way, like his tainting Okja was enough. Like he saw it as almost a bonding. Like we're both abused, we both sold who we are. You know what I mean? Like I feel like he was having these weird, which obviously the animal is not having with him. But I definitely think that he was. I mean, it wasn't really sadistic. Like he wasn't enjoying, but he also kind of was. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
For such a character that was so flamboyantly crazy, all over the place and loud and like you said, not necessarily like a believable human character, but for him to have this weird, like completely trackable evolution in the scene, I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very well done part of the movie. Like following his character, it really is. It's interesting. Um, and then so after that, we go to the scene in New York where they're going to introduce Okja and Mija and have them reunite. And Mija, all she's wanted to do is see Okja this whole time, and she's been asking to like put him on the phone. And
Yeah,
everyone's like,
yeah.
"You want to talk to a pig?" Like, like yes, I want to talk to Okja. And so she's stoked. She gets out her whatever that fruit was that Okja loves from her
Yeah.
fanny pack, and she's ready. She's like ready for Okja to come out. And so it's like a big, almost like a New Year's on Times Square type scene. Like
Yeah.
people are flooded everywhere around the stage, and the CEO's out there, and Mija and Okja comes out, and Okja is just like something different. Like she's no longer this personable, friendly creature. She's like a wild animal almost.
Yeah.
She's like throwing people off of her. She hits Mija onto the ground. Everything's going haywire. Meanwhile, while that's going on, the ALF people, the ALF people, are setting up on this big screen to show them the footage that they captured from Okja. So all these people are out there; it's being broadcast, and they're gonna show the footage to the world,
Yeah.
basically. And they're like exploding all of their balloons that they have, and they had a whole bunch of people set in the crowd to start chaos, I guess, or
Yeah.
whatever they're doing, and then everything just devolves into chaos.
Did you
Everything
notice?
goes wrong.
So some of the ways they told us this is we met the 6 ALF members. We met the 6 ALF members when they ran into Mija and they first kidnapped Okja to set her free and to set the whole thing in motion. But they do a tasting scene of the little things they took out of Okja, and they show this one kid taste it. Well, later in that scene, when they're setting up, like you're getting the placement of characters you recognize, but he runs into someone. He's got an F on his jacket, and when he spreads his shirt, it says ALF, and the girl hands him something and nods, and he tucks it into his jacket and walks away and goes set something out. So it's like not only are you getting like the regular dudes that but you're understanding that this whole thing is under their, like they're about to do something big. I thought it was
You
really.
know, I didn't even pick up that that was the same guy or the
Oh
same
yeah.
kid. Yeah, I that's interesting. I remember that scene. I think he drops his mask. Like they all wear like ski masks or whatever.
Oh, is that
And
what?
the
And she hands it
girl,
to
the
him?
girl hands it to him and shows him the
Well, I just thought
ALF
it
or
was
whatever.
cute. Yeah, well, like he's like literally the jacket has like it's like a letter jacket and it has F, and then he spreads it's like the A and the L on the shirt underneath. I was like, that's kind of funny.
Well done. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was. I think that was a cool scene. It kind of showed like the power the ALF had. Like
sure.
and that scene also kind of devolves because the corporation they bring Nancy back into it, which is the bad half of the CEO,
Yeah,
the other twin. And they're saying, this isn't going well for us. We have to get it under control. And they have some sort of deal with the NYPD to send in private security so that they won't
yeah,
get in trouble.
yeah.
And so all these like badass dudes from just I don't know Hummers,
Yeah,
whatever they
Hummers,
came
and
in on.
they have like flak jackets on and,
Yeah,
and military pouches filled with something. I
just
don't know.
coming and beating the crap out of everyone.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, we're getting control of the situation. Just punching regular citizens in the face.
yeah. And I think that's
And
why they kind of paint her sister as not caring what the public thinks at all. She's like, business is going to be business is going to be business. So we don't need this parade to make them think we're doing this. We're just going to sell them hot dogs and they're going to deal with it.
yeah, and
Which I think plays into her character a little bit later too. But
yeah, definitely. And so from there, we see the ALF people like kind of guide Mija and Okja out. They're trying to get them away from the scene, and they're trying to get them back onto their semi truck. And as they're just getting on, the private security guys hook onto Okja, and everyone gets ripped from the semi, and
Yeah.
they get Okja and they get away. And you're kind of left with Mija and one of the ALF guys, and they got away from the private security, but they're not giving up. They say that they're still going after Okja, and they're going to figure out how to save her.
Yeah.
And that leads to them going to, I guess, the farm where they're keeping all the super pigs.
Yeah.
Because they assume that's where they've taken Okja.
Which is kind of a big deal, because to this point, the company has only mentioned the 26 super pigs that went to farms. And this is the point where you realize, oh, no. This PR stunt was to launch an entire brand of food, which they have hundreds of these things.
Yeah. Thousands probably.
And as soon as Nancy takes over, she's like, just liquidate all of it. We'll just package and sell what we can.
That's a really telling scene too, because they bring up that like, oh, we're not going to have a good PR incident after this. People probably won't want to buy it. And she's just like, if it's cheap enough, they'll buy it. So yeah, you can kind of get her ruthlessness in that scene. And then so we're at the farm, and Okja or Mija and all the ALF guys are going through. Basically, they've gone into where all the fenced super pigs are, and they're just screaming like, "Where are you, Okja?" Trying to figure it out. And we see Okja being like cattled into the slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
And so Mija realizes this, and she runs into the slaughterhouse trying to find a way to get to where Okja was, and she's running around. I think I probably forgot to mention, but in the beginning of the movie, when Okja is taken from their like foothills house in Korea, her grandfather, who she lives with, has taken her away from these people who are studying Okja and taken her to the grave of her parents and telling her, oh, you probably shouldn't be hanging out with a pig all this time. And so I got you this, and it's like a golden pig. He tells her it's 100% real gold. And he says, normally I give this to someone, who's just married or something like that.
Yeah, like a dowry or something. Yeah.
She says, why now? And he says, well, they're going to take Okja, so I thought you could have this instead, And so she's been holding on to this whole time. And so it leads to this really interesting scene where the ALF people and Mija have gotten into the slaughterhouse, and they have witnessed, these super pigs going into this, slaughtering area, someone just shooting them in the head, and then them going off to, where their carcasses are going to get split up into meat.
Yeah.
And the next one up is Okja, and Mija's, screaming, stop. And they stop, and the nasty CEO lady comes out, and she's like, what do you want from me?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we need to kill these things. We need to get them in production. And, the ALF people are kind of being righteous, and they're like, how could you do this? Do you even have a heart?
Yeah.
And, they're asking her, why could you do this? And she says, we can only sell the dead ones. So
yeah,
their only value to me is if they're dead. And Mija kind of sparks Mija. She opens up her fanny pack. She throws the golden pig at the lady, and she's like, I want to purchase Okja alive. And that was it. The lady looks at it. She's like, yep, this is gold. Okay, we got a deal.
Yeah. And I think at that point too, it plays into the fact that they're going to take a loss on this whole project. And she just had a kid throw a solid gold. I mean, I would say like what a third of a brick of gold. So I think it really played into the practicality of her. She's like, man, I probably got 4 times what I can sell these as package things for.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a really easy way to resolve the issue with her character. And it makes sense, right? Like, she is a businesswoman. She's thinking about the bottom line.
Yeah.
So you gave her the value of her pig. So
Yeah.
she's not inherently evil. She's just a businesswoman.
Yeah.
You know, like we're kind of made out to believe that she is, through their marketing that they keep saying, she's bad. She did all the bad things. She's literally just a businesswoman. She doesn't really have a lot of morals, but she's, at her heart, if you can give her a deal that works for her, then she's fine with that.
Yeah.
And in other movies, that's the point where that character becomes vindictive.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Like
Or
if
they have
they
to
if
physically struggle
yeah,
and
like
pull off a big escape. Yeah.
in other movies, that's where they're like, no, I want this pig to die just because, like just because of the principle of it, and that's not realistic. And so
Like
I
this
think
pig
that's
cost us everything on the stage, and yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So I think that's an interesting, that's an interesting part of his storytelling is his characters have reason and logic, and they're they fit a mold.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that part of it, of his storytelling in this movie. Then
Sure. And I think in the same way though, like she is still heartless, but she's not logicless. Like
right,
for her, there is
yeah,
no
yeah,
emotion. She is not
exactly,
emotionally involved in this decision. There's no vindictiveness. At the same time, there's no guilt. She's just like, meh,
yeah.
it's business, and you made this business profitable for me. There you go.
Which you know that's probably a good way to summarize a lot of the way farming is done today.
Sure. Yeah.
Like it's a business.
Yeah.
It's not. We're not. I'm sure on some level, when you run a slaughterhouse, you have a little bit of heartlessness. Killing like live animals. But I wouldn't say those people are bad people. They just, this is their business. This is their trade. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it falls into it. So I think, yeah, I think it was a really interesting way to tell the story of that character.
Absolutely. So anyway, do you want to finish up with on the way out and everything?
Oh yeah, and then so after she pays for Okja, there's kind of the scene where they're walking Okja out through the like I guess the path out is through all of the other super pigs. Like they're on the fences on either side of them, and
Almost
they're
like
all
it's
kind of
just there for the employee cars to come in or for the trucks to come move the meat. Like
yeah.
there's just a clear cut fenced off path through the middle of the field. Yeah, absolutely.
Which honestly I thought was a really powerful scene again too. It was just like, the one that got away and all the others, these are intelligent animals. They kind
Yeah.
of, you can see in the way they kind of express the pigs that they understand this one got out, and there's this part where one of the pigs is like opening up the fence, the electric fence, sacrificing itself to get its baby out.
Yeah.
And Okja puts the baby in its mouth to hide it, I guess, and get it away. And yeah, it was just, and then they go back to the foothills, and that's where they live. And
Yeah.
kind of I would say the movie kind of ends in like this peaceful unsettledness. Does that make sense? It's like you're back where you started, where everything was just kind of tranquil and nice. They're back to jumping in rivers and sleeping in grass and stuff. But the way the movie ends, you still are kind of like, dang, like that scene from where all the pigs are being slaughtered and they're watching Okja leave is still kind of left with you. I feel like you're not.
Well, and I
given
think
time
that's
to
part of
forget
it. Like it's almost part of her journey of coming to adulthood, but it's something that I think that regardless, I feel like this director does really well, and that's make us face the reality of something,
Sure.
the reality of surviving like the end of the world, for Snowpiercer, or for this, like the reality of mass food production. Like that, it is a business. You can't save everyone. And she couldn't. She did what she could, and she lives with that. But she also lives with the knowledge that this is happening. So I feel like that's what we're left with too. Yeah, no, I think he does that really well.
Well, it was a good pick, man. I'd say.
Not as funny as our other ones. Not as lighthearted.
Oh no, yeah, it was a good pick though. I mean, I'm always down, and I've, I would have never even thought to watch that movie, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like if I had seen it, I probably would have just never even thought about it.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
strange.
it was really interesting. Yeah, I liked it.
All right, cool. So, I mean, this is normally where we jump into like, okay, so what were the problems? How do you fix them? I don't know that I definitely think that's okay, but what were some like maybe quirky weirdness that really stood out to you that you really enjoyed?
Um, yeah, I enjoyed the. We talked about the ALF characters,
Mhm.
like the comedic timing with some of those characters was really great to me. Like I enjoyed um, how everything would kind of go from serious and then just have like a quick quip that
Yeah.
like got you out of everything. Um, yeah, I really liked the symbolism and everything. Like at least what I took away from it, I thought it was interesting. Like I think um, kind of the big story behind the corporation trying to feed you this line of bullshit.
Yeah.
That's obviously not what's going on. I just think that's so relatable. Like, I think that's what everyone feels like.
Yeah.
Like especially with like politics these days, and not even talking about corporate America, but including corporate America. It all just feels like we're constantly being fed like this is what we want you to think we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, and what we're actually doing is something that if you saw it, you would not give us your money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, I think it hits a string that, we all kind of feel.
Well, I think that bringing that up kind of goes into an interesting thing that I didn't immediately think about, but was the difference between Nancy and Lucy, the two sisters that ran the company. Nancy is portrayed as this awful, terrible person, but Lucy, although she had a grasp of what marketing was, her story was a lie. She went
Mm-hmm.
into their experimental lab. She said basically this certain weird pig was born in China. And so we took it to Arizona. We figured out how to genetically get it to reproduce. And now we have this race of pigs. And the reality was they had a creature experimentation lab where they were trying to manipulate DNA to make the perfect meat animal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what so I mean, even though her sister is blunt, her sister didn't have any qualms about like, oh, I'm going to tell people this is, I'm not going to mess with people's morals. No, this is business. People want to eat, got to eat. They're going to eat cheap hot dogs.
Yeah.
So that's an extra interesting juxtaposition. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is there's a little mini story in the ALF guys where the guy that is Korean, I'm just going to call him Glenn because it's the same guy that plays Glenn in The Walking Dead. So Glenn and Jay, I think was the leader's name. Um, Jay is unflinchingly self-righteous. Like he believes his mission 110% to the point where when Glenn confesses that he lied about Mija's response, um, Jay, this nonviolent person that stole this stuff because he thinks it's morally wrong for them to raise and kill animals, wouldn't hurt anyone the whole way. He beats Glenn and kicks him out of the club. All right. You can't have any part of this. Well, there's a scene when everything's going crazy when Okja is revealed at the festival, and she's not herself. She's not aware of what's going on. She's just going crazy, and she bites Mija's arm and drags Mija down. And in fearing for Mija's life, Jay grabs a mic stand and goes to hit Okja. This nonviolent guy is about to do his cardinal offense, strike an animal, and Mija catches it.
Right.
And then, like maybe 2 minutes later, they are saved by Glenn, who's been kicked out of the group, that just swings in at the end to pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that you kind of see Jay's maybe self-righteousness fall, a little bit. Like he's realized that people make mistakes, and he ends up forgiving Glenn. Glenn shows him that a tattoo that he's gotten. But I think that was a really interesting little like clip at Jay, because otherwise, without that scene, without that nuance, Jay is just like, oh, he's like this holy character that wants to save animals and cares about animals more than anyone else in the world. Like, no, like he realizes that some things are just things, some things just happen. And I think that kind of goes just like a subtle message with the rest of the movie. I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really great point. I didn't really, I picked up on that. I picked up on Jay's like relentless allegiance to the ALF. And, there was some humor to that, but I don't think I grasped at the time how the importance that you just explained really well of the scene where he's about to hit Okja. I didn't even think about that, really. I was just kind of like in the moment of the scene, like, oh, yeah, it looks like he's eating Mija's arm or something. Yeah. And the dude
it was
goes
unhuman
to save
response.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, yeah, that's really true. He's billed the whole movie before that as a guy who would never hurt an animal.
Yeah.
Ever. And he would beat the crap out of his friends if they would even suggest the opposite, so yeah, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, I think that actually adds an interesting level to the movie.
Oh, well, hey man, I've got their IMDb pulled up. I mean, I think it's no secret this guy's kind of hot right now because
we talk about him every week.
Yeah, we talk about it every week. Well, I mean, but, he did win an Academy
No, that's
Award.
why he's hot, because we talk about him
him every week. We got trendsetters.
You're welcome, Mr. Hoon.
Yeah. Well, I think Bong Joon.
Joon.
Either Bong is his last name or Bong Joon is his last name and Ho is his first name, I guess. But anyway, yeah. So, clearly he directed Parasite. So we know that. He directed The Host, which for anybody that's got Hulu, The Host is on Hulu right now. Looking at you, Nick, because that's a good watch too.
Well, maybe.
Well, maybe. I don't know. He's not tested. He does have some, I don't know. No, yeah, man, I enjoyed him. I enjoy, like I said last week when we announced it, I like Tilda Swinton. If Tilda Swinton is in a movie, it's usually just in some way twisted. If that makes any sense. And I mean, she was in The Snowpiercer, so she's been before. I don't know if she's in Parasite. I haven't seen that one yet.
She's not. That is almost an exclusively Korean film.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Which
another interesting part about this movie, you don't see this a lot when, we have a family from Korea interacting with America. Yes. Generally, in a movie like this, they would just make the Korean people speak English.
Yeah.
But they are subtitled the whole movie.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with. I thought, I like that better than just assuming these Korean, not like, obviously not in like Seoul or something, like these countryside Korean people would not know how to speak English. Yeah. So in their movie, they're subtitled, like I remember thinking while watching the movie, like, I never see this happen. There's never a movie where it's like half English, half subtitled, but they did that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, man. No, yeah. And I think that adds a level of realism to it as well.
Yeah.
And, and I mean, to that point, when they ran into the factory and it was mostly staffed by people that spoke Spanish, they just spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they didn't have like interactive speaking lines, they're like, hey, stop, but they left them in their native language, like they didn't care that you would feel uncomfortable or unfamiliar with it, worried about the perception, like, and that made it more believable.
Yeah.
Those little things.
Yeah. I like those little details that just make you more invested, or, there's not a part where you're like, oh, that would never happen. Yes. Even though we're talking about super pigs.
I do wonder if they ever explored like marketing, like that, like a kid's toy. They have those
Yeah.
ones that you squeeze and like jelly beans come out of. Like I can imagine like this like little
Like a
Okja
little
plushie you
Okja.
squeeze and it shoots brown jelly beans
Little
out of
jelly
it.
beans.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
man.
I will say with Tilda Swinton, whenever she's in a movie, her whole look is just off-putting enough that it always makes me like a little on edge or like a
Yeah.
little uneasy. Like she's just kind of got this like stoic, very cold look to her.
Yeah.
And so she's always plays that character very well.
Which makes me wonder if like there was a point in her career where she was like trying to do romantic comedies and stuff, and like her agent just sat her down and was like, Tilda, sweetheart, it just, you do a thing and you do it well. You do it better than anyone on the planet. Let's just go that direction.
I know you want to be one of the next Jennifers,
Yeah,
but not all of us can be a Jennifer Alba, a Jennifer Hudson, a Jennifer. We can't all do that. We can't be in a Paul Rudd movie every year. Tilda, you
Just
have
one?
to you have to branch out, honey.
Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome.
Well, cool. Well, hey, man, this has been a long one, and it was emotional, even just to talk about it again. Do you want to announce our next week's movie, and we'll give everybody a break?
Yeah, let's do it. Next week we are going to watch The Discovery with Jason Segel and Robert Redford.
Nice.
It's a Netflix original directed by Charlie McDowell. I've seen it before. Ryan hasn't, so it'll be
It's a
interesting.
buddy cop movie, right?
Yeah, it's a buddy cop movie. It's got that same black dude from In the Dark Side of the Moon.
No,
no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
I'm so happy.
It's really good though. I mean, it's another
now
sci-fi
Jason Segel's
movie.
In it. Does it have puppets?
Yes, it's got one puppet scene. No.
Oh man, I love puppets.
Yeah, no, it's really deep. Like it kind of explores like a really harsh reality. So it's gonna be fun to talk about.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, like I said, you've been telling me to watch this for a while. It looked like it was going to have enough of an edge to it that I was like, man, when I'm sitting down for my good times, I don't know if I can put this on. So I'm excited to get into it, to have a reason to have to watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to have very many lighthearted, funny moments. So get ready, America.
Well, cool. Well, hey, man, 7.6 on Okja, 8.2 on Okja. I would say for both of us to be in that close news and go enjoy it and check out The Discovery for next week. We'll see you next time.
Laters.